Here's a quick video. I'm going to show you how I like to organize and set up my strings, specifically using Cinematic Studio Series strings in Logic. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start by, what I'm going to do is I'm going to organize these into 5 tracks: violins 1, violins 2, violas, cellos, and basses. Now you might think I'm going to do 1 track for both, but I'm actually going to do 2, and I'm going to show you why. So I'll start by loading first violins. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to load another first violin patch. And you'll notice they're on MIDI channels 1 and 2, which means over here, I'm going to have to change this MIDI out channel to 1 so that when I go over to track and do new track with next MIDI channel, it would be channel 2. So it's very important that before you do new track with next MIDI channel here, that you change the MIDI out channel from all to 1. So it starts, as you adding those tracks, it starts doing them sequentially. Okay, so now you'll see that's one instance of first violins, and that's the second instance. And the reason we're doing this is because I like to do a violin 1 longs, and we'll do violin 1 shorts. The reason for that is because the shorts in Cinematic Studio Series, I'm going to switch it to staccato here, you'll see that the duration of the short is controlled with the mod wheel. But if I'm using a longs patch up here, my mod wheel is going to control the expression. Which means if I were to record a line here, and then let's say I wanted to then switch to a staccato patch, then what's going to happen is I'd have to add a key switch, right? Staccato patch is right there. So there's my key switch for sustains. Is that once I add the key switch for the staccato, I still have data in here, right? That is my mod wheel data. So there's my key switch, and then I have mod wheel data here. And what's going to happen is the staccato patch is going to immediately start to react to that mod wheel data. And I just find that to be frustrating. So what I do is keep longs where the mod wheel data is only going to affect the intensity or expression of the instrument, and then in this one shorts, the mod wheel is going to only affect the length of the short. So I might also do pizzicatos or measured tremolos also in the shorts, but for longs I would do sustains, tremolos, and marcatos. So what you're seeing now is just a sped up version of me doing the same thing for every instrument, going down the list here for strings. So violin 2s, violas, and adding 2 instances for every instrument, because again, we're doing a long and a short track for each instrument. And after I set up my tracks, what I like to do is add the icons to every single one. I just choose slightly different string icons. Logic doesn't really have the icons mapped out well. Color coding is also really important. And then finally, just adding an audio track for each instrument. Okay, so you can see now that I have created audio tracks, I need to bus the outputs to each audio track. So I'm going to do that here. Okay, so you'll notice that as we open up the mixer, Logic kind of messes up a few things here. For example, it has automatically named some of the tracks down here, but for some reason, instrument 1, which I did name violin longs, right? Didn't get named, so I'm just gonna violin longs. So this is when, actually, to make things a little easier, I will right click, go to channel strip components, and make sure that I can see track notes, right? And this gives me an opportunity to maybe label some more things down here. So I might do that in a little bit. Okay, but first what I want to do is I'm going to set the input for violins 1 here. I'm going to make this a stereo track and set the input to be bus 1. And then I'm going to set the output here to bus 1, violins 1. And rinse and repeat. So real quickly, going through setting the buses of all the instrument tracks to go to their corresponding audio tracks. And finally, if this is the beginning of a larger orchestral template, I might want to take all of this, select it all, right click, and do a create track stack. We're going to do a folder stack, create, and we would just call it strings. By the way, a brand new version of Logic came out that allows me to nest folder tracks, track folders within other track folders, which I can't do right now. So for example, I could take the audio maybe and bunch them all down in one area and then put that as another folder. But for now, we're gonna keep it simple. Okay, so that is a basic setup. I think I'll make another video where I show more ideas that I can do. By the way, if you have more string libraries, what you can do is create, for example, let's say you have sunset strings and you want to put an instance in there. So it's easy to add to this setup because that's automatically going to be on channel 3. And by the way, a quick shortcut, Option Command X will add the next channel, and you can see that it's now coming in here to sunset strings, right? So we might change this to sunset violins 1. And by the way, I've got to input enable all of my audio tracks because the instrument tracks are busing out to them. Okay. There we go. All right, thanks for watching.